Welcome back to another exciting episode of Ready Up. My name is Spicer.
And I'm Leo.
And we just finished reviewing Game of Thrones, but it was so bad we aren't even gonna show it.
No.
So we watched one of the biggest blockbusters China has ever had, called The Wandering Earth.
Yeah, we want to do something positive today, and we believe strongly that bringing this movie to your attention is a very positive thing.
Yeah, instead of just bitching about everything. Yeah, but anyway, we like to judge our movies into 6 categories: direction, writing, acting, sound, music, and visual effects. What do you think about the direction?
I thought the direction was really good in terms of bringing everything together. I didn't know anything about this movie going in, and it just caught me unaware. Specifically, I was expecting a certain B-movie qualities that this movie did not have. Like, everything came together in a very convincing way that just really worked. And I think a lot of it is attributed to the direction. The timing of everything is just really good.
Yeah, on this, I didn't really know what to expect. I just knew it was a big movie over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, and then shocked, and then surprised, and then shocked, and then surprised, and surprised, and surprised, and then yeah, I really enjoyed. This is. We'll talk about it. Maybe we can talk about it now without any spoilers, because it's kind of a general topic. But what is that magic? What is that magic that no matter what the situation is in the story, it just comes together so well?
There's a very, very, very high degree of craftsmanship into this movie. Just everybody on every aspect of this development and of this production has done their job flawlessly, in a sense where everything works. And although it's not perfect, it's really a unique gem, and I've never really seen anything like this before, especially that it works to this quality. It feels like something that on paper would have sounded like a B movie, but everything is done to such high degree of proficiency that it becomes beyond, it just transcends that.
All right. So the writing, I have to say, I am thoroughly surprised that this went together so well. Like, some parts were just so ridiculous, but it was in the vein of the movie, and so it works. It works. And I laughed. I was super excited. I was tense. Lots of really cool moments, lots of funny moments. Pretty much everything I'm looking for in a movie was in the writing of this. And it was ridiculous, it was serious, it was believable, which I think is the most important adjective of this
not
writing
what you would
review.
expect to use to describe this, but yeah.
What do you think?
I very much agree. I think definitely wanted to bring up the point of believability, because this is, again, we didn't know what we were getting into when we started watching it, and like watching it without spoiling too much, this is basically a sci-fi disaster movie. And but it, at very specific moments throughout the film, even though it follows that formula of disaster movie, like, it never fails to keep us on. And even in the moments where it's so ridiculously over the top, they still give you enough to be like, okay, that works. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, I understand why this is happening.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's all it is. It's just like, okay, I'll take it. And we are not exaggerating when we're saying there is some major suspension of disbelief that needs to happen. But it works. They did it.
Oh yeah.
I was in. I'll buy this.
And third is acting. And I would have to say the acting was probably the cherry on top for this movie, because everyone sold it so well. Like, there's definitely a different way that they create movies over there than we do over here. And even though there was maybe it wasn't even lost in translation. It was just kind of like a universal characters, universal reactions, believable, and appropriate reactions and a wonderful mix of characters. And I even had a favorite character, and I didn't understand anything these people were saying. I had to read everything.
Yeah.
But everything about this movie just came together and supported each other and just tried to lift the other one up further.
I would definitely agree with that. I want to point out that one of the really strong points about the acting is the way all the major characters and the supporting characters were emoting in a way that, like you said, it transcends language barriers. It's the emoting when how they interact between family members, between coworkers, and all that stuff. And under those stressful situations, you saw a gamut of human emotion and reactions to various situations, and they sold it. And not everyone was Oscar winning over there, but enough of the main cast that they really carried this movie. And like you said, cherry on the top. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah. And so it comes to sound on this one. What do you think about the sound?
Excellent. This is a sci-fi disaster movie. Sound plays a very, very key role in this. And without going into too much details, there's a lot of traditional sci-fi settings that cause problems for some movie sounds, and others really make them shine in their interpretation, in their artistic creativity when it comes to doing this. This movie, I think, definitely falls on the latter part where they did a really good job of conveying just the stuff that was going on that was so insanely out there. So, yeah, definitely thumbs up for that for me.
Oh yeah. This was definitely another layer of deliciousness that they put on here, like things you've never seen before and sounds that were appropriate for it. And I'm just like, what? It's just all these things just happening, and it's never lost. It's never jumbled. It doesn't sound like it's trying to fight with each other. Like the sound was just so good on this. Yeah. It took the ridiculousness and the believability that we keep talking about, and it really just drove it home. Just like everything was crackling the way it should crackle and all that stuff.
But, I like your layered cake analogy for this too, because it really feels like everything came together in a very, very even and delicious way. It's it's eye candy.
It's magic, dude.
Yeah,
it's magic.
Yeah.
So now music. What do you think about the music?
Music hand in hand with the sound. There were certain moments that really stood out for me in a positive way because, certain moments you see them coming from a mile, and it's just that predictable stuff, the amped up moments or the grief moments or stuff like that. And you see them come in, and after you've seen it enough in so many movies, it just kind of, okay, like I get what they're trying to do. I respect here. Here it worked, and I was trying to fight it, but when they were trying to get you amped, like I felt amped, like when they were trying to make you feel sad, I felt sad, and music played a key role in that with the uplifting music or the sad music and stuff like that. And it's another positive note for the acting that they were able to work with the music to deliver those moments. And I think that worked really well for me. What about you?
Yeah. For me, it was very Hans Zimmerish from like Man of Steel. It kind of reminded me with the and just stuff like that. And I loved it. I love that soundtrack, and it just reminded me whenever things need to get like pumped up, and it was like, it was good. And whenever it's comedic, it was really good. Sad points, a little cheesy sometimes, but it was still good. It never was offensive at all. But other than that, I thought it was another great piece to this
layer.
Yeah. Another layer.
Yeah, I would definitely say the music was unapologetically epic. They don't care. They know what they're after, and they're going after it. That's it. They're doing it.
Yeah, and they did it. Yeah. They did it. I mean, you can't be restrained in a situation like this. So.
This movie has no restraint.
Yeah.
No restraint. They're going for it.
But finesse at the same time,
Yeah. It's very disciplined, no restraint. Like they're going big, and they're not afraid to go big, and they're doing it, but they're doing it well. So somehow they got away with it, and that's amazing to me.
Yeah. And finally, saving the best for last.
Ooh.
Visual effects. I have never seen what they showed me on screen today, and it was done so well. Like even in Endgame and Infinity War, whenever they do the digital helmet, you can tell it's a digital helmet, right? Like there's so many things in here that looked really, really good. Really, really good. I could never really distinguish the green screen and the matte paintings. Mm-hmm. They must have had the largest matte painting team ever, dude. It was just one after the other, and it was so beautiful.
Probably solid half of that movie relies on matte paintings, if not more. If I'm trying to compare the weight of indoors versus outdoor scenes.
Whenever I was noticing it, I started counting. I just lost count of all the different matte paintings that they need to do.
They don't keep going back to the same one they could afford. There was a lot. This was like we said earlier, like they didn't have restraint, and they just went after it, and it works. And
talk about that transition.
Oh yes, this is very early on.
No detail.
Yes. But okay, so without detail, but there is one specific one that they first introduce you. It's not even the very first one, but they do this a couple of times throughout the movie, where I feel like they're allergic to normal cuts. Like they can't do a normal cut to the scene. They got to be like anything. And we'll talk about it in the spoiler area, but it feels like an experimental movie where every single experiment was a shining success. I mean, I have not seen stuff like this before, but they've done it with the craftsmanship of somebody who's been doing it forever.
Yeah.
Like they nailed out, they hammered out all the kinks on this, and the vistas in this movie, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That transition we'll talk about specifically, but it set you up to be like, this is how epic this movie's gonna be.
Yeah,
and it's just the transition, and that was it. And I'm from one location to another, and like, how many movie reviews do you hear talking about a transition of many transitions that were equally as impressive?
Yes.
But it just kind of like, I didn't know what to expect in this movie, and then and you're like, you just missed one of the most amazing transitions
you stepped
ever.
out for a second.
Yeah.
Water or something. Yeah.
And then we rewound it, and I was like, yeah, that's this movie's gonna be good. Yeah, because if they can handle a transition like that so smoothly and so believably and so just like one after the other.
Can you imagine how many man hours that one transition took?
I love it.
That was just that was just on the scale of just a simple establishing shot. This is not even the scene. This is just.
What do you think about the costumes? What do you think about the costumes?
Oh, the costumes I think were really, really well done. They really call back to functional design, and but it's functional. But very artistry laden in that, and this is also reflected in the matte paintings that I want to get back to for a second, because they weren't going for realism. They weren't going for crazy. They're going for a certain stylized realism with all the colors that, like, I could tell this is a painting, but like you said earlier, it just fits and blends into the scene. And it's like the reality we know, but a little bit turned up, a little bit bigger, a little bit brighter, a little bit more colorful, a little bit more epic. And likewise, when you talk about the vehicle design, all the settings, and their outfit designs, it's just the same thing comes into thing. It's just that I feel like every single person who's working in every aspect in this movie, and especially in the art department, that I feel was the shining star of this movie. It's just every single person was like the best in their field. Like, here's the best concept artist to do this. Here's the best like costume designer to do this.
It felt like that. Like they grabbed the best of the best and brought them in. I hope everybody survived the crush on this movie, also hope they got paid really, really well, because y'all did an amazing job on this movie. Y'all gave me stuff I'd never even expected when I started the movie, and definitely in the end, y'all left me speechless. So great job, visual effects team. I hope you get so much money. All right, so I'm kind of
Where
eager.
was this movie made again?
I think China.
Okay.
I think China. Yeah.
All right. I hope they got some money.
Yeah. I hope they got some. Sure. But yeah. So what are you giving this movie? Ready up, ready down.
I'm giving this movie 2 ready ups. I was not prepared, and again, it just you walk in there and you think initially that this is just yet another overambitious B movie, but it's not. Every technical quality along the way is without a hitch. Everything is done. Everything is working. Everything is by the page. Everything is by the numbers. It's just there. Just a smooth, tight, super well refined, low fat ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just slick. It works. It's a tight experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
2 ready ups for me. 2 ready ups. Whatever you're doing right now, you need to make plans right now to go on Netflix and watch this movie.
The Wandering Earth.
Yes, The Wandering
Netflix.
Earth. I love the costumes. I love the art. I love the situation. I love the writing. I love the actors. I love the funny parts. I love this movie. It was great. I'm definitely going to watch this again and again because first off, it's available. Listen to me.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, but it's definitely something I aspire to in terms of everything this movie is. Whenever I want to create a universe, is something so crazy, so wild, but so rich in character and believability, and that's where these 2 things excelled, but everything else did as well. So absolutely go watch this movie. But we're going to get into our spoiler discussion. So if you haven't seen the movie, definitely go see it. But we're going to start spoiling it right about now.
无论最终结果将人类历史导向何处，我们决定选择希望。祝地球好运。
Welcome back. We are talking about spoilers for The Wandering Earth. I hope you have seen the movie because it is absolutely excellent.
You should.
Let's start with the premise of this movie because I'm pretty sure most of us on this side of the earth have no idea what this movie is about.
Yeah, I've never heard about it before. The premise, it seems a little bit like cheesy at first, but basically, they rush you through this. Not necessarily rush in a bad way, but just here it is. Like they start you with this in your face. And again, a little bit of suspension of disbelief, but I believe the main issue is that the Earth is deteriorating in a really bad way.
Or the sun is...
because the sun is expanding, yes. And basically, so the Earth is deteriorating because of that, and the sun is basically expanding in that universe, like to engulf the entire solar system, right? Which is similar to what happens to some suns, but that's fine. So they basically decide, just right off the start, they let you know that humanity has decided to build a fuck ton of engines and propel the Earth into another star system and to make a home over there. So just off the bat, they turn the Earth into a spaceship.
Which I think is brilliant. I love that idea.
Off the top, they're like, by the way, this is what we're doing.
Like, why build a spaceship if the Earth needs to move, right? Like, if we need to move the Earth for any reason, why build a spaceship to house everyone? Just bring the Earth,
I feel like we should have like Neil deGrasse Tyson over here, like helping us out with this.
He'd be like, "No, this is all bullshit."
But that's the thing. The movie works. The
Yeah.
movie works. So all of it is bullshit. Again, suspend your disbelief. But if we just told you the premise as it was, this is a sci-fi disaster movie where they're trying to do this and run into some problems, a lot of problems. And again, this is where it's almost corny and almost cheesy if we say it, but it works. In the movie, it works. Like it's one of those, you got to see it to believe it, because just like disaster movies, every time they make they take 2 steps forward and then 1 step back because something goes to shit.
Oh yeah,
You know, and it's a constant roller coaster.
And they kind of set that up with like the ice walls. I was like, okay, well that's gonna crumble down, but I knew it was gonna happen, but it was still good. But yeah, basically the movie is the sun's expanding, the Earth is gonna get burnt up, and we need to move the entire world. So we put a bunch of ships on it. But the human story is about a father and son. And the father,
a family in general.
Family in general for sure. But the two, I would consider the two main characters the father and the son, and the father is up in the navigation station, which is run by an AI that we later find out is kind of cold-hearted and doesn't really care about the world because they already have like a bunch of embryos that are ready to go whenever they land.
It's got its own kind of mission.
So the father had to leave. I think they have to put in an amount of time before they can go to the Earth or go back to the Earth because
they serve for so many years,
and then he gets awarded to go back home and visit his son. But his son's very bitter about his dad leaving because his mother also died because of a decision that he made. But you can see how deep it is.
Yeah.
All these reasons, all this depth, and just 2 of these characters.
No bars held.
And there's like what 15, at least 15. Like
there's a bunch.
I would say just A and B characters. I wouldn't even say there's like C characters in here because. There's this one jail guy, this Australian Chinese guy, who's a doofus through the whole thing.
Everybody gets a moment,
and has the most epic moment.
Right, everybody gets a moment, and it's overall beyond family. I would say this movie is about family, but also about community, because at the same time that they're succeeding or failing, everybody around the Earth come together as a community, and you see because we take we escort on the journey of this one group. While at the same time, it's implied and shown that several other groups around the globe were trying to do the same thing, and they're succeeded on their own story through their own challenges. And it's a sense of the community coming together to do a good thing. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the grander story of the movie. Whereas the most close by story of the main characters, I would definitely agree with you. There's this connection, tenuous connection, but also very loving connection between father and son. So
yeah, it was
very, very touching.
Yeah, there was one death that kind of confused me was the grandfather. Like they had one of the army guys, catch him as he was falling through the elevator, swung him in, and he died. And then that guy ended up just taking his helmet off and freezing to death.
Yeah, I think that was probably one of the
lost in translation. I think maybe there's something honorable about that.
Maybe it felt to me like that was one of very, very few, none that I even recall, like plot dead ends kind of deal. Because the other guy sacrificed himself to kind of give him that extra few moments, but he was still hopeless and he still died. But I think maybe the point was that he would die while hearing his grandkids. Maybe I'm not sure. He was turning his head and then, and I'm not sure. That felt a little awkward. Like I wasn't sure where they're going with that. If they're going to go down and try to rescue him, but he didn't even let them know he was alive still. So maybe that's what he was about. So that was. It didn't really take me out of it. The grandfather was definitely a key character in this movie with a lot of quirks, like in the beginning with the jail cell and stuff. And it's just, I think another part of this maybe is that because we're so used to disaster movies and just movies with high kill counts, this is something that was very unusual to me in this movie, where they make you feel every single major death. So like they don't just immediately move on, like they're dead, move on. Like it impacts the characters that are close to them, and the soldiers are able to handle it a little bit better, but not by much. And the family and the civilians got, when this stuff happens, it hits them hard and they freak out and they do stuff that both seems believable, but also advances the plot in a major way. And
I think another thing that was advancing the plot was the amount of information that they were giving us. You were remarking on the map that they kept showing and telling you where we are, where we're going, where we're coming from over and over again. But it wasn't boring either. but it was definitely so much going on, so many characters on Earth, in the space station, all these different, obstacles, but it was never unclear. Like it was always explained and shown to us what was going on. Here's where we got to go. This is what we got to do. Da da da. And they just made it exciting. One of my favorite parts of this movie, aside from I'll let you have the ignition part, but my favorite part was the space station with the Russian and the father, and them trying to get to the top to what was it, Moss, I think was the name?
Moss, MOSS.
Yeah. And they're trying to get there, and they were dodging all the spinning things, and it was just really, really cool. I mean, we've seen that type of stuff before,
Gravity.
but it was done very uniquely.
I like this better than Gravity, just for this one scene that was kind of mirroring certain scenes in Gravity, for example. Yeah, I would definitely agree
What
with
about
that.
the ignition of Jupiter?
So earlier in the spoiler-free review, we said this movie is very, very ambitious. This movie has no fear. Like at some point, they set out, and they set it out where I was legitimately thinking, okay, so is this going to be like just a dark ending movie with really it's just a just kind of a character study in a way. I believe it was George R. R. Martin that wrote a book or a short story called The Dying of the Light that I haven't read, but I've heard about in the synopsis, where basically the whole book or the whole story takes place on a planet that is drifting off into space, and all the characters eventually die. But you take them on this journey, and I thought, is this what they're gonna do? Because at some point, after so many failures, they're just like super hopeless. And you're like, okay, so if this is the tone of the movie, it's still a very good movie. It's definitely not what I was expecting. And then they're like, oh, we should just because the planet got caught. Let me just backtrack a little bit. The planet got caught in the gravity well of Jupiter, and it's about to crash into it. Even the crash they did in a more scientifically literate way, where it would disintegrate as it enters the Roche field, I believe. Or the Roche distance.
Where the two gravities mix together and basically sucks the atmosphere from the smaller planet.
Yes, but the big risk was that. But yeah, that was another thing that they were doing in a very believable way. I would actually love to hear what somebody who knows astrophysics would have to say about this movie, what they got right, what they kind of stretched. But then they decide to effectively, what we thought at the time was blow up Jupiter, because the Earth's atmosphere has been leaving Earth and being tunneled into Jupiter because of the gravity, because it's lighter. So it was really messing that up, and that showed other physical phenomena like the atmosphere thinning, aircraft no longer being able to fly, so they all have to travel on foot. So everything is like tied together in an interesting way. And as soon as they said that, we were both like, "What the like? Really? They're going?
Are they gonna do this?"
Spoiler, they do. They don't actually blow up Jupiter. They actually do it in a way that sort of makes sense. But they blow up an area of Jupiter. I think that big storm.
Eye. Yeah, the eye of Jupiter.
That I imagine is equivalent to the mass of some of Earth's atmosphere, because the reason it was flammable is because of all the oxygen and hydrogen that it sucked from Earth. And that mixed with... it was the oxygen, and then because Jupiter already has the hydrogen, so it became flammable, I believe that's what it was.
Yeah, a bunch of science stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But it's cool that it seems like they gave it some thought, though.
Yeah.
And I'll have to actually look that up just for myself, but it's amazing to me that they went for it. They gave us enough explanations to not be bothered by it during the movie. And they just did it. They just fucking did it. And they did it in the most over-the-top, dramatic way that somehow still works.
Yeah, I love the design of basically making the world a spaceship, which was they put the engines on the side that the sun was shining, so man could still live. But we're living within all these engines, not within all these engines, but around all these engines. They're basically propelling the world away from this emerging sun. And I was thinking about, I was like, well, how are they going to do that? Because I mean, where are they going to be living? Da, 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 da. And then whenever I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, they solved that. Like all the...
They address those things. They address all those tiny questions that pop up to you in the middle of the movie, or in the middle of an episode of any show or something that something doesn't make sense. Like, wait a second. Like, it takes you out of it. No, they're just like, real quick glance over it. No, we thought of that. Here, you're good.
Right.
Keep going. Keep going with the story. We're good. We thought about it.
And they
It's over here.
explained it, and it was interesting. And they had so many like MacGuffins, like where we need the sword. Let's go and do this, and that's pretty much the whole movie.
That is the whole movie.
But they like the whole movie of this thing is, obviously you don't have Earth get destroyed, but they had a bunch of things that they had to do to make that happen. But it never felt laborious. It never felt like, oh, okay, here's the next thing that they got to get. Right. All right, here, it was just so entertaining and so beautiful and so unique. And seeing Saturn framed by Earth,
that shot
just,
of look,
oh
there's
man,
so many beautiful just wallpapers in this
upon
movie.
wallpaper over again.
Amazing. Just if I had to summarize this movie in one sentence, it would definitely be that this is the most polished sci-fi disaster movie ever made. Like, just summarize it with one sentence: the most polished sci-fi disaster movie ever made.
What about Armageddon?
I would say this is more because it's way more ambitious than Armageddon was.
And it pulls it off very well.
Yeah, that's the big risk with this kind of ambition.
Like with it looked like it was so easy to make this movie. Yeah. But it wasn't. It was so much work.
They got so many things right that so easily can be just a little bit off. And so much of it was done right. Just super high level of polish. Just absolutely. So, yeah.
I loved it. I loved this movie.
Same.
Yeah,
big surprise. Did not know what to expect at all. Again, the premise makes, like, you go in there, you're thinking this is a B movie, but it's not. This is a blockbuster level feel, if not really in practice, because again, there's a lot of matte paintings. The outdoors didn't feel like real outdoors. It felt like sci-fi outdoors, but it's fine. Like, it works, and it was like stylized in just the correct way that it works, and. It just between the acting and all that, it just works for me.
Yeah, I loved how the characters all, like, whenever they would die, they would have like a little poem that they would say before they would die. Like, you must promise me that you must live on. But it was way more artistic and poetic than that.
As they fade, you hear their voice.
Right.
Yeah, and last words kind of deal.
And one thing I've noticed about this type of like Asian storytelling is that they always give you the spoiler right in the beginning of the movie. Like, I called it. Like, whenever he's like, just look up and then you'll see me. I was like, well, thanks for spoiling the movie. Like I knew what the end was going to be. And they always do that. But it's like, even though they spoil the movie for you in the very beginning, they take you on this ride. And then at the end, I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. And
what do you mean by
great.
Spoiling the movie ahead of time?
Well, they
I mean the foreshadowing with the alcohol?
Yeah, the foreshadowing that they do. Okay. It's so deliberate and so literal, even though it's wrapped up in a little bit of poetry. Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It's art. It's artistic. It's polished. It's unapologetically epic. Yeah, it's just so I'm amazed that they pulled it. I'm still amazed that they pull it off. It's so over the top.
And so believable, but over and over again.
That's the thing. It's two things that you so rarely see together, like over the top and believable. And just like, it's enough that you stay on this ride and you enjoy this roller coaster of a beautifully well-crafted movie.
Yeah. Can't recommend it enough. I mean, we're just going to gush on this movie over and over and over again.
Dig it.
You better have seen this movie by now.
Netflix.
I mean, I don't think we can really spoil anything because we don't remember anybody's name, but there's lots of cool things going on in this movie.
A lot of characters get their moments.
Yeah. And it's definitely worth your time if you like epic sci-fi movies. So this has been another exciting episode of Ready Up. My name's Spicer.
And I'm Leo.
And we will see you very, very soon.
Like and subscribe.
If you would be so kind. Make sure to like. All right? Make sure to subscribe. Maybe share it around a bit. We don't ask for much. extra
Man,
exciting.
you're just not gonna up the Game of Thrones one? You're just not
Yeah,
gonna
fuck
upload?
that Game of Thrones.
Fuck that.
Game of Thrones doesn't deserve a review this week.
No, they haven't earned
Mm-hmm.
it. You should just upload the review, but just have like literally like 45 minutes of a still image of a Starbucks cup.